Lorian, and I'm kind of far away from the camera for a very simple reason. I am doing a tag, and I am surrounded by books. Today I'm doing the Opposites book tag. Whoever created, their name is on the screen. The link to their video is down below. I first saw this with Katrina, or how do you say her name, from Little Book Owl. Her video will be linked down below. I wasn't tagged by anyone, but I just decided to do it. So let's get started. So number 1, the first book in your collection and the last book you bought. So the first book in my collection is really special to me. It is Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne. This has crayon on it. It's falling to pieces because my mother purchased this when it was new in the 1960s, and when I was brought home from the hospital, this was in my collection. I remember I asked my mom, like, why do I have Winnie the Pooh in here? And she said, because when I brought you home from the hospital, it was in there, and it's mine. I did eventually want to give it away. She took it from me, and now I want it back, and it's not leaving my collection. So long as it's mostly together. I don't ever plan on actually reading this copy. I will read it, but not this copy. This copy is just too old and too precious to me. And the last book that I bought was at the Bookman's Warehouse sale. That video is already up. I will link that down below. And I mentioned in there, the last book that I grabbed was Charmed, the Book of Three by Diana G. Gallagher and Paul Ruditist. I don't know. I haven't read this yet. I'm a big fan of Charmed, so I saw it, had to grab it, and it's in my collection now. Number 2, a cheap book and an expensive book. For my cheap book, I went with the Ultimate Kid book, the Ultimate Book of Kid Concoctions. This was my mom. She was gonna give it away. I tried to sell it. No one would take it. Then I actually looked inside and went, hey, I work with small children in primary. It would be a good idea to keep this. But yeah, it was completely free. The next book for my expensive one is The Shadow Queen by Anne Bishop. I love this series, and I got this new, and yes, it was for $25. 25 bucks for a book. It's the most expensive I've ever paid for a book. Full price, full sticker price. Oh my goodness. Number 3, a book with a male protagonist and a book with a female protagonist. So I actually have a lot of books with male protagonists, but the one that I went with is Artemis Fowl by Ian Colfer. This series recently came to an end. I am a big fan of it. I love this series. I love Artemis Fowl. It's very witty, very well done, and if you are not a big fan of fairies, I recommend picking this up to get you into fairies, because they're very different from the way fairies are portrayed most of the time. But I really, really love this book, and I want the rest of the series. I have most of it, but not all of it. For my female protagonist, I went with Guilty Pleasures by Laurel K. Hamilton. This is part of the Anita Blake series. The protagonist is Anita Blake. She is a vampire hunter. This is a world where vampires have always existed. Everyone's always known about them. There's like shapeshifters and werewolves and lots of other things in this. And Anita Blake is part of the police department then that investigates when a vampire and a werewolf or something like that is going down. Guilty Pleasures, I think, is a place in this universe. I do like this series, however, after book 7, it becomes all about sex, and the storyline, which was so ingenious, is lost. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. So I've only read the first 3, but I do love it. And I do have up till book 7, and I'm not getting the rest. Number 4, a book you read quickly and a book that took you a long time to read. So the quickly one is Beat the Vandal Buster. I wasn't a big reader. My library was very small, and I had like no other manga, but I got into Beat the Vandal Buster, and I remember we went to Borders way back when I was in elementary school or middle school, and I read it within 30 minutes of buying it. My mom got mad, and I went, why? I want to reread it. I want to own it. And she's just like, we could have just waited for you to read it for 30 minutes. And I went, 1, you wouldn't have waited that long anyway. And 2, I want to reread it. I have reread this series. I did enjoy it. It ends on a ding-dang cliffhanger because Koji Inada and Riku Sanju just gave up on it. That's who created it. But they just gave up on it. The book that took me a long time to read, originally I had Alta, but I just traded it with Raven, and I haven't gotten her copy yet. I'm in the middle of trying to trade books because of things. Another book that took pretty much the same amount of time, if not a little bit longer, is Revenge of the Sith. by Matthew Stover. It's not that this is bad. It's not badly written. It's the best Star Wars book I think I've ever read. Except for The Force Unleashed. I really did love it. It's just so damn sad, and the book is sadder, and you can see Anakin falling apart. And kind of a spoiler, in the movies they never really show how Anakin could have done that. In this it really shows. He's a tad bit crazy. Like, there's a dragon and it talks to him and he talks to it, and he's slightly schizophrenic and stuff. So that's an interesting thing, but it's just very, 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 very sad. Number 5, a pretty cover and an ugly cover. So for my pretty cover, I had to go, although there's a lot of covers here that I do like, but I have to go with the Abhorsen trilogy by Garth Nix. Even if you were to get them individually, these covers in particular I love. In this world there are symbols that is how you utilize magic and stuff. I forget exactly how. I need to reread this series. Not this year. I think I'll do it next year. But these symbols show up on the book covers, and even this bind up has it. So I love it. I love the simplicity. I love the cover, the symbols. I love this. For my uglies, there was, do you see how hideous these are? Do you see how hideous these are? They're damn hideous. I'm like, Tamora Pierce said that she doesn't like choosing her own covers. One of the reasons I never picked up Tamora Pierce books is the damn covers. These are hideous. These are butt ugly. These are butt ugly. Oh my goodness, these are so dang ugly. I hate them. I much prefer this. These are my favorite covers, but I will take any other cover. I will take a coverless over these ugly things. That's why I'm like, but I want to own it, but they're so ugly. What? This is what it should have looked like from the beginning. Not this. Hideous. Hideous, hideous, hideous. Number 6, a national book and an international book. So at first I was kind of like, a national book? What does that mean? It's a book that's that is written by, published, and takes place in America. And I went very local, and I went with my best girl, LA Knight's book, Glass. LA Knight is from Tucson. She's my best friend. She lives here right now. It takes place in Tucson. And it is published from Tucson, basically. So, of course, I had to go with this. Link to purchase this is down below. What this series is about, it is about a girl named Alyssa who gets this, she goes to a new school, she gets this text message that is very interesting about save the knave, and she's kind of like, what the heck? And she runs smack into this girl who turns around, slaps her, like bitch slaps her, and then turns back around and acts like nothing happened. So she's like, you are so dead, and attacks her and gets into a fight literally before school starts on her very first day. Turns out that girl is a witch. She is and there's this huge witch war going on. There's lots of different fairies and shapeshifters and stuff, and they all are bound to these witches, and you have to choose a side, red or white. And it was the white queen that hit her. Alyssa at lunch punches out the red queen also, and Alyssa chooses or, and it's the pandemonium that takes place. This is a quartet. Glass is the first of 2 that have been released. It's Glass, then Obsidian, and then Alabaster is number 4, I think. Yeah, and then it's Garnet is number 3. We have not continued writing Garnet, not because LA Knight doesn't want to, but because she lost her latest chapter. She lost what she wrote, and she doesn't remember what she wrote, and she's kind of at a stuck place. But links to the first 2 books will be down below. I definitely recommend it. International, I went with my favorite living author today, and that is John Flanagan. In particular, his very first book, Ranger's Apprentice, The Ruins of Gorlan. Everything that John Flanagan has written, I've loved. I love them all. I love them all. Definitely recommend this to everyone. They are fantasy, they are middle grade-ish, young adult-ish. It's got a little bit of for everyone. I really, really enjoyed it. Number 7, a thin book and a thick book. For my thin book, I went with The Chick and the Duckling by Mira Ginsburg, and pictures by Jose and Ariana Dewey. Jose Arugo and Ariana Dewey. Whatever. This book, he's thin. It's my thinnest book. It's itsy bitsy. It's teensy weensy. For my thick book, I actually had written down another book. Well, I'll show you that also. For my thick book, I have The Host, and I also have The Born Objective. This is a large print book. That's why it's so thick. So it's my thickest book, but if we were to go by the way publishing companies do, which is word count, that would be The Host. This thing has over 300,000 words. This thing is like 3 Twilights. That's how big this book is. This thing is ginormous, okay? This is huge. Oh my goodness. This is huge. The only book that I think can compare with this that I know of is the latest of the Mortal Instruments books, City of Heavenly Fire. Another one is Game of Thrones. Yeah, so this is, word count wise, this is that, but physically big is this. Number 9, a romantic book and an action book. So for romance, I don't have a lot of romance, but for romance, I went with Twilight. This thing is like 99% emotion, 1% plot. Really. This is all about emotion and about a girl being in love. That's really the whole heart of this entire series. So of course I had to go with Twilight, because I don't own any romance books in physical form. My good friend, TANIA BOGART, sorry, Tanya, I lost your last name. TANIA BOGART, she has a book that is also linked down below, but I haven't read it and I don't have a physical copy. For action, there was no doubt. I went with DBZ by Akira Toriyama. Guys, this is pure action. This is pure action. Have you seen the anime? Not the new BS anime. There's the old one. I also have DBZ abridged. Episode 1 will be linked down below, whether on their website or whether on YouTube. I don't know. Seriously, Dragon Ball Z, hands down, most action thing I've ever read. This is like almost pure testosterone. In the show, they have entire minutes of characters punching. And that's it. The longest fight in animated history is from DBZ. The longest fight. It's like an insane amount of time. It is huge. It is like 50 episodes between Goku, Son Goku, and Frieza. Oh my gosh, it's pure action, pure action. Number 10, a book that made you happy and then one that made you sad. So the book that made me happy is the other John Flanagan book. It's Ranger's Apprentice, The Lost Stories. I thought Ranger's Apprentice was done and over. He hadn't released another one. He was working on his Brother Band Chronicles, which is fine, but I wasn't certain he'd return to this. And so when this came out, I was so happy. And from page 1 to the final page, I loved it. I loved it. I'm so thrilled, and I was so excited when I saw this at the library book sale, which is why my finger's getting stuck on that sticky part right there. The sad book, I don't own many sad books. So I thought about it, and I decided to show a book that made me bawl like a baby. This wasn't in the books that made me cry, and I don't know why. But it should have been. And that is Dear America, Voyage on the Great Titanic, The Diary of Margaret Ann Brady by Ellen Emerson White. Wow. There's this point, I think it might have actually been in there. I'll link that video down below. It actually might have been in there. There's this point where the Titanic's sinking and she got stuck. And there's almost no boats left. And the men are just sitting there waiting to die. And the moment they see her, yeah, this was in that video, so it's down below. The moment they see her, they just grab her and they're like, oh no, and so they run down, and she's passing boys her own age. She's passing men that she knows and men she doesn't know. And the only thought on every man's mind was, we need to get her out of here. I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed because the men didn't care about their lives anymore. They were just waiting to die. And I recently read online, someone posted this letter that was from someone who'd survived, who was in the same position, serving someone else, a traveling companion and as a maid for someone on the Titanic, who talked about how the real life people, she saw this old couple and the wife looking at the husband saying, I've been with you for 50 years, I'm not leaving you. And it just tore me to pieces reading this. It was so sad. I have books that made me cry worse, but I felt like I needed to bring this up again just because, you know, it is a children's series. It is a middle grade book. It's a children's series, and it probably gets overlooked a lot, and it shouldn't, because this is a heart-wrenching, powerful story, in particular about sacrifice. And the sacrifice it shows is just, it rips your heart out. It's so sad. Alright, so that is the opposites tag. Now I have to get all of these back on my shelves. I don't know if y'all can see some of the holes left from pulling them down, so I need to fix this, and I'm hungry. And I just filmed a bunch of videos. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up. Let me know your thickest book. Let me know the saddest book you've read. Let me know the stupidest book cover you've ever seen. Let me know in the comments, and subscribe to see more videos like this. I've done a whole bunch of book reviews. I don't know if that's up. I just did Divergent and Batman, The Court of Owls. If those are up, I'll link them down below. And if not, subscribe to see them. Thanks for watching. Bye!